Well, it has been a very interesting past 12 hours, not just because of the fact that I decided to go back to a mustache, not just because of the fact I have my Christmas Toys R Us WWF Superstars t-shirt on, not just because of the fact that the New York Knicks handled the LA Lakers, shout out to Julius Randle, but no, everyone is talking about the Insomniac leak, something that nobody thought was going to happen, ended up happening. Of course, a ransomware group decided to hack into Insomniac servers, take control of things, probably with some sort of executable file that an employee downloaded, put on the computer, and then bam, they were into all of the servers. And then of course, they came up with a ransomware. They wanted $2 million in Bitcoin of all sorts of things. And of course, Sony and Insomniac told him to F off, and then bam, they leaked everything. There's a ton of leaks out there. So I want to talk about some of these leaks with you guys, just to kind of keep you up to speed, some of the more interesting stuff to me. And at the very end of this, I have a message to the video game industry, especially the journalism side of things. So make sure you guys stick around for that. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit subscribe. Just because, I don't know, why not? Like, we're talking about things. Yeah, this is the third PlayStation 5 video in a row. I'm a PlayStation YouTuber now, folks. But of course, the main thing from this whole ransomware attack was the fact that we learned about Insomniac's pretty much their upcoming games for really almost the next decade. Obviously, a lot of planning goes into stuff like this. You know, it's not just spur of the moment sort of stuff where they decide to make a video game. No, there's a lot of planning that goes into this side of stuff. Unfortunately, they also took like Insomniac employee information and like group chats and stuff like that, which I think is disgusting. Like, you know, there's the business side, there's the content side, but you know, these ransomware groups, they're gonna do what they do. They just take everything that they can get their hands on. I want to focus primarily though on the upcoming software lineup, because allegedly, this is from July of this year. They have a slide, which I'm not showing you anything from this leak. Kiss my ass, Sony. You're not striking this video. Marvel's Venom in fall of 2025. So a game dedicated to Venom that seems like it's going to be sort of like Miles Morales, an 8 to 10 hour sort of game. There is, you know, a different gameplay loop for it, obviously still taking place within the Spider-Man 2 universe. If you played Spider-Man 2, you would understand why, because Venom does appear in that game, but essentially giving Venom his shine. And I like the Venom character. You know, the 90s Venom was freaking awesome. I don't know how much like Marvel has changed that character, but that seems to be the next move for Insomniac. There was no sort of information about DLC for Spider-Man, of course, but I think it's interesting that this was scheduled for fall of 2025, because that means 2024 doesn't look like it's going to have any Insomniac stuff. Of course, Marvel's Wolverine was the big deal, was the big game from this leak, because we got a look at it. There is now some very early alpha footage out there. Nothing that I'm going to really, you know, dive deep into, because of the fact that it's just so early in development. There's not a whole lot of meat on the bone with that, but there are some interesting gameplay mechanics that you can see. And you can also see that it's an Insomniac superhero game through and through. Like, it definitely has that same sort of feel. So I wonder about the scope of the game. But Marvel's Wolverine is scheduled for fall of 2026, and that's actually longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to see Wolverine in 2025, and then maybe something smaller from Insomniac in 2024. So this console generation is getting stretched very, very wide. This isn't the era of Insomniac or Naughty Dog where there's a constant output of games. And, you know, I'm not sure how the gaming public is really going to accept that. Obviously, game budgets have greatly increased. You know, it's a different world from the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4, but still, it is a bit disheartening to hear that a lot of these games that we saw like a year ago are still very, very far out there. And I don't think this leak is going to help with any of those release dates. Marvel's Spider-Man in fall of 2028. So we get a Spider-Man 3 in fall of 2028. So if you haven't picked up on it yet, Insomniac somehow became the Marvel studio for Sony. And whether you like that or not, Insomniac does have a lot of other IPs. they have a lot of other properties that they could sort of delve into that I feel like people, you know, probably have missed from them, but it doesn't seem like this Marvel train is stopping anytime soon because, well, I mean, it's been very successful. Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, these are all very successful games and games that I enjoyed. I still need to beat Spider-Man 2. That is on my holiday backlog list, but I do think this is painting an interesting picture of Insomniac just being the main studio doing these Marvel games. Marvel, you know, while the cinematic universe is kind of on its tail end and probably needs a reboot, the video game universe isn't like that. Licensed games aren't the same sort of licensed games that we got back in the day. Now everyone loves licensed games. It used to be, if it was a licensed game, you thought it was crap more than likely before you played it. So very interesting to see their sort of outline with this. But Ratchet and Clank fans, do not fret, because a new Ratchet and Clank for fall of 2029. So 6 years from now, they're planning the new Ratchet and Clank, and I really enjoyed Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. I thought the rift mechanism was really pointless, but it was still a good game overall. You know, it's one of the few games on my PlayStation that I was like, okay, I want to play this all the way through. You know, I don't want just a sampling, just a morsel. I want the whole enchilada, and it was a very good game for me. The final boss battle did glitch out on me, but it made it easier for me, so I didn't really care. I mean, I'll take it. But you know, 2029 for a new Ratchet, everything up until 2028 from Insomniac is going to be Marvel related. And they know people love their Marvel, but some people love these other franchises. But don't worry, if you're sad about that 2029 game, well, there's a Marvel's X-Men coming in fall of 2030. 2030. First and foremost, I'm probably not even going to be alive in 2030. Like, let's just keep it a buck here. Like, who knows what's going to happen to me next in 2024? But 2030, like, I understand planning for stuff like that, but you know, this one game every couple of years, you know, you look at Venom, fall 2025, Wolverine, fall 2026, Spider-Man 3, fall 2028. Like, we are spreading ourselves very thin with these games. And that's not the Insomniac that a lot of people, you know, kind of remember. Insomniac's kind of been a big workhorse company. But like I said, you have these big sort of games with these huge budgets and all this sort of stuff, and you have to constantly up the ante. If it wasn't for Insomniac and Square Enix right now, what would PlayStation have? Like, it's crazy to think about. And then the final game that is revealed in this slide is a new IP in 2031 or 2032. Video game companies, I don't want to hear about anything beyond, honestly, 2025. I don't want to hear a damn thing. I don't want to see these games. I don't want you to acknowledge that these games are a thing. Like, I feel like we're getting to a point with video games where companies are keeping it a bit closer so that way the wait period isn't as long. Because when you look at companies, every video game company has a game where it's like it was announced and then it's like, where the hell is it? You know, Nintendo, Metroid Prime 4, Xbox with pretty much everything. I hate this huge lead out thing, especially when Insomniac isn't doing anything until fall of 2025 as far as a new game is concerned, or even sort of like additional content and stuff like that. Because obviously Venom is essentially going to be like a bit higher DLC, you know, much like Miles Morales was. Miles Morales at its core was probably DLC for Spider-Man, but it became something bigger. They increased the size, they increased the scope, and I think that game was great. You know, I was fine with the price point of it and everything. It's actually one of my favorite games on the PlayStation 5, but you're running yourself very thin and very ragged. And if you have some sort of thing, or it's like you have a shift where you're like, oh, we're gonna do these live service games. Oh wait, no, we're not gonna do these live service games. It's like, well, what's there gonna be in the intermittent to support the system? I don't know. It's very crazy. There's a ton of other stuff out there. There's leaked documents about games like Sunset Overdrive made like $500 in revenue. That's why you're never seeing another one of those games. There, of course, is footage of Wolverine and stuff out there. Very early stuff, but you know, I guess you could get like a decent feel for the gameplay, at least from the game. And I think the gameplay looks really fun. Now, in saying all of that, yes, this is a terrible thing that happened. Nobody wants to be on the other end of this. Nobody Nobody wants to, you know, have to deal with something like this. And it's an unfortunate thing that happens in all forms of entertainment. But these video game journalists, it looks like a funeral on Twitter with all these condolences. This is the worst thing ever. I feel so bad for everyone. But those same people are going to be people who talk about it and cover all of this stuff. And it's like, why do it? Everyone knows that this is a bad thing. Everyone knows that inherently this is a bad thing that comes from a malicious place. This isn't a company leaking something. This is an outside force forcing the company into, you know, either pay us or we're going to leak everything. And they called their bluff and they leaked everything. I get it. Most people understand that this is not a good thing. You don't need to go on Twitter and virtue signal and get on your high horse and then turn around and talk about these same things. You're all going to talk about it on your podcast. You're all going to talk about it on your websites. Like, it's phony. It's phony sympathy. It's ridiculous. Like, oh man, you want to DM a developer, you know what, Insomniac? Sure, go ahead. Okay, Insomniac is dealing with enough stuff right now. Your stupid half-ass tweet that nobody, that you're still going to cover all this stuff. So how bad do you really feel? That's the problem with the video game journalism industry. All these people, they're all the smiley face Gerards. They're all, look at me, I'm a good person. And then they do the same things that the bad people do. Look, Insomniac, it sucks that it happened to you. I am sorry about this, but I'm also going to talk about it because everyone else is talking about it. I'm the scumbag. I'm the bad guy. If that's who I have to be, then that's who I have to be. But I would rather be real with you than be fake with you and then cover the stuff anyways. Well, a little bit of a tangent there. A little bit of a spicy tangent there. Let me know what you think about this in the comments section down below. Is Insomniac running themselves a little too thin? Are you surprised by some of the release windows for this game? How do you think it'll impact things? Because obviously this is going to impact things. You know, they have access to all this sort of stuff. I'm sure something will come out about Insomniac doing crunch and then everyone will do a quick 180. Oh, Insomniac bad, because the industry is full of phonies. And as always, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you made it to the end, you are a champion. A winner is you. Subscribe if you're new. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.